solving an absolute value equation. Before we go ahead and look at some absolute value equations, let's recall the definition of absolute value. This was done in an earlier lecture, but let's go ahead and look. The absolute value of a number x is written as this symbol here, and it is defined as the distance on a number line from the point 0 to the point x. And so remember, distance is always positive, so whenever we're dealing with an absolute value, the answer will always be positive. This will always be equal to a positive value. Okay, so let's take a look at a fairly simple example. It says the absolute value of x is equal to c. Now in this case, we'll assume that c is a positive number, because if c is negative, this problem doesn't make any sense. Now, let me try to graphically figure out what this thing is really saying. Remember, the absolute value of a number is the distance from the number x to 0. So let's go ahead and draw a number line. Here's 0. In this case, it says that the number x has a distance of c units away from 0. So what are my possibilities for x? Well, certainly x could equal c, because this point would be c units away from 0. Or x could equal negative c. So take a look. If we have this statement, the distance from some number is c, well then my only choices for x are x must equal c, or x must equal negative c. Those are the only 2 points that are c units away from 0. Now let's put a real number in here and try another example. Let's solve this equation. The absolute value of this number, 2x minus 1, is equal to 4 units away from 0. So I'm going to draw a number line. So if this number is 4 units away from 0, we have to figure out, well, where does this number live on the number line? Well, like the previous example, if the number 2x minus 1 is 4 units away from 0, then 2x minus 1 must equal 4, or 2x minus 1 must equal negative 4. So we get these two equations. 2x minus 1 is equal to 4, or 2x minus 1 is equal to negative 4. And all we have to do is solve each equation independently. So let's see, let's add 1 to both sides here. 2x, the 1's cancel, is equal to 5. And now I'll divide by 2. So x must equal, those cancel, 5/2. Now let's go ahead and solve the other equation. Again, I'll add 1 to both sides. My 1's are going to cancel. Negative 4 and a positive 1 is negative 3. And I'll divide by 2. X's, or the 2's cancel, and I'm left with an x equals negative 3/2. And I'll bring down the or. So our solution consists of 2 elements. X is equal to 5/2, or x is equal to negative 3/2. And if we want to put this into set notation, we'll just include the 2 points into our set. So our solution to that equation is 5/2 or negative 3/2. Now let's take a look at why this works. Let me write down this equation. Again, 2x minus 1 equals 4. And we said our solution was the set of the points 5/2 and -3/2. We did the work on the previous page. Now let's check. Let's actually plug a 5/2 in for x. We'll see what we get, and we'll see if it equals 4. We'll plug in the -3/2 in for x. We'll do the algebra, and we'll again see if it equals 4. So let's plug the 5/2 in first. So 2 times 5/2, I'm just plugging in the 5/2 in for x. And we want to check, does this thing actually equal 4? That's the question we're asking. Well, 2 times 5/2, the 2's are going to cancel. And I'm left with the absolute value of 5 minus 1. And we want to check, does that equal 4? Well, 5 minus 1 is 4. And yes, the absolute value of 4 is 4. So that first solution checked. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. We'll plug the -3/2 in. Just put a line here, and we'll do it again. 2 times -3/2, again, I'm plugging in the -3/2 in for x, and I want to see if this all checks out. I'm pretty confident that it will. I'll put a little question mark because we don't know if that's quite equal yet. Okay. The 2's are going to cancel when I multiply. And I'm left with an absolute value of -3 minus 1. We want to check, does that equal 4? -3 and -1 is -4. The absolute value of a -4 is 4. So again, that one checked. Now, I would certainly encourage you to check your work each time. It doesn't take that much time, and it gives you good practice on your algebra skills. Let's try one more. The absolute value of some number, 3x plus 1, is equal to -4. Now, remember what absolute value means. It means the distance away from 0. This problem says, let's find the x value such that the distance from this number to 0 is -4. Well, distance always has to be positive. There is absolutely no way that we can find the absolute value of a number and get -4. So we can see off the bat that there is really no solution to this problem. There's really no algebraic way to attack this problem. We're just going to simply say that this thing has no solution. And we usually write the symbol empty set to represent that there's no solution. Now again, that's because the absolute value always has to be positive. So when I put this negative number here, there's just no way to solve it because it doesn't make any sense. Well, let's recap. We're going to let a, b, and c be real numbers, and my c here is going to be greater than or equal to 0. Well, there's really two cases. We can have a problem that's equal to this number c. Well, what does that mean? Well, again, that means that this number must be c units away from 0. So the number ax plus b must equal c, or ax plus b equals -c. So we get these two equations. Well, the other case, if c is positive, that means this would be a negative number, which again makes no sense since we're talking about absolute value, which always has to be positive. So if we encounter this case where the absolute value of some number is equal to a negative value, well, then there is no solution. And traditionally, we'll just write the empty set sign.